Welcome to the voiceover videos that we do here, Dad and I. Todd, I'm Hudson. These are our Todd's Tips videos. We will also have our numbers video a little bit later. You can check those out in their own playlist, labeled numbers. This is in its own playlist as well. It's Todd's Tips. So anyway, Todd, who's been in the VO world for 14 years, does a pretty good job, doesn't do any coaching other than, I guess you might call this some coaching or words of wisdom or tips, as we call them. So Dad's going to bring us something this week, something to chew on and think about with regards to your business. So let's lend him an ear.
I don't do any paid coaching to this point.
Oh, true.
I think that's the differentiating point. So no paid coaching. So Todd's Tips, and under that umbrella is the current series that we have going. It is our do's and don'ts, my do's and don'ts, things that I'm teaching Hudson, things that he's thinking about and applying in his own way. And we always put these caveats here because, to be honest with you, even Hudson and I are different. You know, he's 36 years younger than I am. Doesn't have the same background. He's got a lot of strengths that I don't have, and then some areas that I can help him in.
Really?
And so these are things that you need to take into consideration. But please don't allow it to be, well, that's him. He's 63 years old and he's been in it and he says this, and so I don't have to listen, or it doesn't apply to me. I think these do's and don'ts apply to everyone. How they apply exactly, that's up to you. Be a good learner. And one of the things that makes a person a good learner is just being calm and listening carefully and then applying to your specific situation. So please do that. And that'll make these videos worth it for me and for you. So here's my do for today. It's a little bit longer, so hang with me. I've got some points to make toward the end. I do think there are basically two schools of thought for voiceover newbies. I do think that there are basically two schools of thought for voiceover newbies. Well, Hudson mentioned that I've reached another milestone, another year in voiceover. In August, that's this month, we're just starting August 2023, and I'm beginning my 14th year. This is my 14th year. The first 3 or 4 years, I have to admit, and you can probably identify, depending on where you are in the scale of years in voiceover, those were quite an experience, the first 3 or 4 years. So much learning to do, so many things I found out I didn't know, so many old habits to break and new habits to form. One of the things I've learned is that there are lots and lots of voices out there vying for VO newbies' attention, time, career path, and money. I might be wrong, but it seems to me that there are two basic schools of thought when it comes to VO newbies. First school of thought is this: make a pretty major investment, a pretty large investment of money and time into coaching, getting equipment, getting great professional demos, etc., and do that training and ramping up for 6 months to a year, maybe even more, and then begin your voiceover career. To do otherwise is, to be less than professional. A second school of thought for newbies is make a much smaller investment in all of these things and begin to earn while you learn. That's another basic. It's kind of like there's two big railroad tracks, and you think about
there's a fork
forks in the road. Yeah,
you
you come up to that stop sign and it says, here I am a newbie. What am I going to choose? Basically, there are these two schools of thought. Now, honestly, I can see pros and cons of both. But now isn't the time to discuss those pros and cons. I do want to make an observation about proponents of these two philosophies of getting started in VO. The first school of thought, that is, especially get training. Don't get out there and earn while you learn, get training. That first school of thought and its proponents have very strong opinions and even disparaging words for the second school of thought. While in my research, and you might have found out differently, but in my research, it doesn't go both ways. The second school of thought is, earn while you learn. They don't vilify and, pat the other on the head. The first school of thoughters. It appears to me that those in category 1 consider themselves enlightened, while they look down their pointy noses at the second group as what they would call them, and I've heard them call them this, pretenders, unprofessional, selfish. One man even called them chuckleheads, which is to mean you're stupid.
I've never heard that term before, chuckleheads.
Well, yeah. For my part, when I was starting out, I didn't know anything about the two different schools. I was ignorant. I was not no account. I was just ignorant.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
I was just chasing a dream. I'd always wanted to do voiceover. I'd been in radio for 30 years. I'd always wanted to do voiceover. Had one chance in the middle 80s, and I said, I want to do that someday. And so I was chasing a dream and trying to feed my family. I wonder why those in the school of thought number 1 feel it necessary to treat people in group number 2 that way. I don't know why. I have my suspicions, despite their claims of wanting what is best for the industry as a whole and for the VO newbies in particular. At my age and with my life experience, and now going into my 14th year of VO experience, when somebody says, trust me, just trust me, all the while making monsters out of those who might be different than they are, I'm quite confident I do know their motives. The question is, do you? Do you know their motives? And so it all comes down to this. Here's my question for you to ponder, and my statement actually. Choose wisely who you listen to. This is the most important decision, no matter which school of thought you're going to choose. Choose wisely. And someday, as I've mentioned, I've teased, I'm going to talk with you about this 7-stack building blocks of a pyramid that I have, that I've developed in my mind over the years. And the most important thing, I'll just give you the tease, it's that. You have to choose who you're going to listen to. And so choose wisely. But we'll fill those out as we go on, and I think that'll be helpful. But I do think that there are basically 2 different schools of thought when it comes to VO newbies. And maybe you're a VO newbie or one that's still trying to kind of find your way. Well, I say choose wisely, because it'll have a bearing on how much money you spend, how much time you spend going after that, and all sorts of things.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next up, we're going to have our numbers. You can see how I did, how my dad did, and how the people at VOMP did, if maybe you're one of those people. So get to hear how that went. So check these videos out. They're voiceover related, as you can see, in their own playlists, and we will see you later.